Good evening, fellow leadership communication classmates. Tonight, I'm going to profile Fred Delossantos, my supervisor at Lifeways Community Mental Health here in Jackson, Michigan. Now, a little backstory about Fred. Fred holds his master's in mental health counseling from Spring Arbor University. He also is a licensed practicing counselor. He is married to his beautiful bride, Tina, with their two lovely children. Pictured here is Fred and his wife, Tina. Now, that was taken just a few years ago. But the reason I chose Fred joined Lifeways just over a year ago as the lead clinician in the Crisis R&R program, where I am a state certified peer support specialist. Now, there's a couple of other reasons why I chose Fred. When Fred first came on board with Lifeways, he came in with more of a transactional kind of leadership. His vision wasn't that of one that he kind of just went his own way of doing things. He didn't have an inspiring behavior, you might say. Maybe because he was just feeling the waters, or perhaps maybe he was trying to understand how Lifeways actually does business. So I chose him for another reason, because while I've had him as a supervisor for the last year now, I've also saw the great leadership and communication development with Fred. And as our book displayed about transformational leadership throughout the book, one of the important points that comes to mind that Barrett said was she mentioned about internal communication climate requiring leaders to use all of their best communication abilities. Now, this is where I've seen the biggest growth in Fred Delossantos in his leadership communication since joining Lifeways. I've watched him transform his own leadership style just in the short year of being with Lifeways. The other part I'd like to share is that Fred brings in a positive ethos. He brings in that can-do attitude, that he believes that a team can perform to their greatest potential. And that's one of the unique things that I've found about Fred, is he is always receptive to sitting down and talking out a problem. He doesn't just blow you off. Now, mind you, he might be reserved at how he responds or how long he responds to you, but he's not the individual that would just, nope, I don't have time. Nope, schedule it tomorrow with me. He always makes the time, because that's the empathetic type of person that I've seen in Fred Delossantos in this last year. One of my other articles that I came across, Jen 2010, from Emotional Leadership as a Key Dimension of Public Relations Leadership National Survey of Leaders, PR Leaders, from the Journal of Public Relations Research, volume 22, number 22. transformation is all about empathy. It's all about charismatic behavior. And how you create that charismatic behavior matters so much. Now, the other thing that I've seen in this development over here is he has actually, in the interview, he has actually sat back and, I never thought of it that way. I never realized myself by the questions that I asked. And it helped him be reflective of the type of leader he is, but more importantly, the type of communicator he is, not with just us, his team at Lifeways, but with his family and friends. Now, some of the other things that I'd like to point out. Fred has demonstrated the can-do attitude with what he's brought in. Previously, he was at 2 years, he was at a substance abuse recovery detox center. And what I found unique is that he supervised 3 clinicians, he supervised several other entry level or mid-level leaders within the behavioral center. But more importantly, he worked with 30 to 50 clients, taking care of them, helping them recover, helping them find a way to recovery. And that's a unique thing, because in mental health, if you're not familiar with a lot of the background of mental health, it takes a strong advocate to be in someone's corner. Now, many of you, I have shared personally that I was once a consumer to Lifeways 20 years ago. And just in the last 2 years of being at Lifeways, I've been able to really learn and improve my communication and leadership style and really understand. And it's because of people like Fred. It's people that really care genuinely about your leadership development. Now, mind you, he hasn't taken and hasn't been afraid to take and call me out, you might say, a couple of times if he's seen something wrong. But I know he doesn't do it out of discipline or something. He does it out of concern to help me grow and nurture myself. Now, for your pleasure, I'd like to bring in Fred, and I'd like to ask him where he has seen himself in the last year, where he came in, where he's at today, and how his leadership and communication has improved. Fred, are you there? Fred Delossantos, are you there? Unmute yourself. There he is. Can you hear me? Mr. Delossantos, can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, you can. Look, ladies and gentlemen, Eastern Michigan University Leadership Communication class, my supervisor, the one and only Fred Delossantos.
Good evening. How are you?
Fred, could you share with what you've learned just in this last year of being engaged with us at Lifeways in the crisis services program? What have you learned as a leader? But more importantly, how has that leadership helped improve your communication skills?
What I've learned this past year working with you guys in the peer department, well, not only the peer department, but also the with the clinicians and the crisis teams, is that I have to be fluid in my thinking. I have to be able to adapt my style to be able to meet the needs of those I work with. my background is therapy. I've been a individual licensed therapist for the last going on 5 years. I've been in a supervisory role for, let's say, the last 3 years or so. So one of the things I've learned throughout my career and here recently, I look at things both based off an emotional side of things and a logical side of things. And one thing I've learned is that I have to be able to merge the two. So some people are logical in their thinking. Some people are very emotional in their thinking. And that's something I've experienced in the last year working with some of the colleagues. And I think, being able to be flexible, fluid in my thinking, in my management style, leadership style, I think it's allowed me to really meet the needs of those I work with or those that I supervise.
Mm-hmm. What has it been your biggest challenge in learning how much you've changed your leadership style from when you were at your previous employer, the Detox Center?
The biggest challenge that I've found or that I've encountered here since working at a detox or working at a rehab, things, how can I put this? I guess the environment's different, meaning working in a detox, working in a rehab, it's a fast paced type of environment where, how can I put this, Doug? I've had to learn how to modify the manner in which I communicate. I found working within a rehab industry or addiction industry, things are, how can I put this? Things can be a little colorful at times. The manner in which we communicate, we try to keep it real with individuals. Mm-hmm. And even amongst ourselves with the case managers and other clinicians I supervise there, so things can get heated sometimes or passionate when we're trying to do our job. Mm-hmm. And here the barrier, I guess, is modifying that. Seeing that I can't be so unrestrained,
right?
In a sense. So I've had to dial back the manner in which I express myself with people here. So
as a transformational leader, in closing, how have you been able to help work with the peers specifically? What if you could sum it up in 30 seconds?
Could you repeat the question there, Doug? I'm sorry.
If you could sum up in 30 seconds what it's been like working with myself and my other colleagues in the crisis R&R, what type of encouragement could you give my classmates?
My experience working with the peers and those within the crisis R&R, I've really learned, especially the understanding of what a peer is. A peer is someone who's in recovery themselves from a mental health illness, and in flourishing in life. So the words of encouragement I would give to those in your class and going into a field like that, working with individuals like that, is patience, understanding, and compassion, and be able to marry the three of those and inspire those that work alongside you.
And I'll close with this. Your previous director for your previous employer summed it up best. I've never met an individual who has so much compassion, who has dedicated so much of his time to be a strong advocate to help others recover. Would that be a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment there, Doug. And that's something I have to practice not only in my leadership quality, but in my personal life. It's one of those things that I try to instill in those, not only do we speak it, but we also walk it. How can we really help those and teach those if we don't practice it ourselves? So
Right.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is my presentation. It's been an honor to return to Eastern Michigan University this last couple of semesters, finish my master's in communication, but more importantly, learn and grow from each of you. I thank you for your time. Good luck and Godspeed in all of your directional leadership and communication paths, that whatever life may take, always give 110% on and off the field. Thank you, Fred.
Thank you.